There is a kind of creature in the world that has been discovered by a few people but has not been confirmed to exist. We call this kind of creature unidentified mysterious animal, or UMA for short. Hello everyone. Welcome to the UMA series of videos. This issue shares with you an ancient creature from Mongolia, a dead worm in the vast Gobi Desert of Mongolia. There is a strange legend about a giant blood-colored worm. This is a strange creature that lives in the desert. It is usually described as a worm-shaped creature, between 2 and 5 feet long, as thick as a human arm, red in color, with spike-like horns on both ends. When it moves, it will form regular sand waves. Its body fluids are highly toxic and it can spit out corrosive liquids. It even has discharge properties similar to electric eels. According to locals, this giant worm appears in June and July every year. They usually lurk under the sand dunes and attack passing humans and camels for food. People later described it as a bobbit worm living on land. The earliest sighting of this creature can no longer be traced, but the local nomadic people in Mongolia firmly believe in its existence. It is said that many people have seen this creature with their own eyes. The creature was first mentioned in the book Footprints of the Ancients, compiled by American naturalist Roy Chapman Andrews in 1926. The book said that he went to Mongolia to participate in a meeting of local officials. Although none of the people present had seen this creature, they all believed in its existence and their descriptions of it were surprisingly consistent. Even a cabinet minister mentioned it. His wife's cousin had seen this creature. Of course, the most impressive thing in the book is the description of the death worm by the then Mongolian Prime Minister Dandan Bazar, which looks like a 2-foot-long sausage, has no head, no legs, and is extremely poisonous. It kills people if touched. He lives in the most desolate place in the Gobi Desert. As an official, his words are obviously more convincing. This incident was also recorded in Andrews's other book, The New Conquest of Central Asia in 1932. And he added, "Death worms live in the Gobi Desert, the driest and sandiest region in the West. Since then, reports and stories have gradually been discovered, and although Mongolian officials have not conducted a systematic search for them, they have attracted the attention of many explorers. In order to find traces of the death worm, Jack explorer Ivan McClare led a team to search the Gobi Desert twice in 1990 and 1992. He tried to use high explosives to force the worm to appear, but failed. According to his description, the local Mongolians seemed reluctant to talk about this creature, and during the 1992 exploration, they even received a warning from the local Buddhist temple. The worms were said to be supernatural evil creatures, so they gave up the search. Soon, Mackler had a nightmare about the worms, and when he woke up, he found that his back was covered with blood-filled pustules. The record of the incident was made into a documentary in 1993, Killing Monsters Mystery, which was broadcast on Czech TV. If you are interested, you can search for it. In 2004, he went to Mongolia again, this time with a light aircraft. Cameras were installed to film large areas of the Gobi Desert in the hope of capturing images of worms, but they returned without success. Coincidentally, in May 2005, an expedition team formed by the Fortin Zoological Centre in the UK conducted a large-scale search of the Gobi Desert for a month. The team leader was the famous wildlife biologist Richard Freeman. Accompanied by Mongolian guides, they blocked streams and flooded small areas of desert. The hope was to lead the death worm out of the cave, but the result was not ideal. According to Freeman's theory, he believed that the so-called worms were not real worms, because multicellular invertebrates are dependent on who. And according to his records, most of the locals who said they saw or touched the worms came from rumors among relatives and friends. So the death worms were probably a lizard-like creature that was exaggerated in horror. In the following 2006 and 2009, the American paranormal reality show Destination Truth and New Zealand journalist David Ferrier have both launched searches for the death worm, but to no avail. A series of failed searches have led people to question whether the so-called Mongolian death worm really exists. Friends who have watched the author's video may find that this issue's work does not describe detailed eyewitness events. This is because when I searched for information, I found that, just as Professor Freeman said, almost all descriptions of the incidents are very vague and are usually mentioned as stories heard by people around them or explanations for missing people. The only confirmed witness was an interview with a 75-year-old local by Russian zoologist Yuri Konstantinovich Gorilov at his Dalan Zadagad studio in Mongolia in 1983. During the interview, a 9-year-old boy said that he had found death worms, and Gorilov ran out quickly. When he saw the creature, he found it was a Tartar sand boa, a brown-red python that was preying on a mink. It was difficult to identify its head and tail at first because of its uniform texture. An adult female sand boa can grow up to 4 feet long. It is a relatively gentle python and generally does not attack humans. Gorilov believes that the so-called death worm is a snake or earthworm, and its characteristics come from people's fear of the unknown. Cryptozoologist Carl Schuck believes that the death worm is a sand boa or a large worm lizard. Worm lizards, also known as legless lizards, are cryptozoologists that live underground. Unlike snakes, the scales on their abdomens are very similar to those on their backs, and their heads are small, making them look like large earthworms. In addition, the author found some very interesting statements when searching for information. Many domestic self-media people have published such a story. In 2003, a German director named Frank went to Mongolia to shoot a documentary about wolves and encountered a death worm, which killed the cameraman and assistant director. The director and the driver sought help from local officials, but when they returned, the bodies were gone. Later, the two kept silent about the incident, but it was eventually reported by the European press. The author carefully searched for news about this incident, but found nothing. Or rather, there is no news about the experience of this director Frank on the internet. The only thing I found is a movie called Children of Dune, released in 2003. The monster in the movie borrowed the image of the death worm. One of the screenwriters was named Frank Herbert. Some self-media also published articles saying that the secret history of Mongolia recorded that Genghis Khan's tomb was guarded by a group of mysterious creatures, and these creatures were later called Mongolian death worms by Westerners. Note that at least in the full text of the secret history of the Mongols that I searched, there is no mention of the so-called mysterious creature, nor even the mausoleum of Genghis Khan. Of course, it is said that the original version of the secret history of the Mongols has been lost, and the secret history of the Mongols we see now is a later compiled version. But I still don't believe that such an absurd thing would suddenly appear in a historical document that records conquests and national development. In summary, the author believes that the possibility of the existence of the Mongolian death worm, not big. First of all, the translation of the name of the death worm is actually an exaggerated description of it by explorers. In Mongolian, it is translated as a big, long worm because the creature looks like a cow intestine. And most eyewitness descriptions say that it is a worm-like creature, which gives people a lot of room for imagination. In addition, the attack characteristics of the so-called death worm are different in different regions of Mongolia. Only some people describe it as spitting corrosive liquid, and the characteristics of earth electricity appear in rumors from another area. So I am more inclined to think that the death worms people see are not a single species. The sand wave-like footprints come from rattlesnakes and sand belly snakes. The red body is headless and legless, and the horns on the head of the sharp-lined footless lizard may come from the hen of the horned viper, etc. This seems to be a fictional creature composed of legends and exaggerations from different regions. In addition, influenced by many movies, TV shows, and games in recent years, people have deepened their fear of the image of the death worm. In fact, according to interviews with New Zealand journalists, sightings of the death worm have gradually decreased since the 1950s, and there have been few sightings of this creature to date. Of course, it is not ruled out that this strange creature may become extinct as time goes by. After all, the unknown is always greater than the known, and this is also the charm of UMA. Okay, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching.